I'd like to call on our new medical director for the Peter Munk Cardiac Center, Dr. Barry Rubin, who's going to say a few words on behalf of the cardiac program. Dr. Rubin.
Thanks very much, Linda. As usual, you've organized an amazing event. I appreciate everybody's being here. My comments will be brief. I've stayed and listened to the presentations by Dr. Rao and Dr. Ross, and it's really a pleasure and an honor to be the leader of a program that offers this type of technology, leading edge for so many patients. As you know, Dr. Rao did his surgical training and medical school in Toronto, and then he went to Columbia to do advanced training in cardiac transplantation and mechanical assist devices, and we're happy that he returned here. You heard that he put the first HeartMate device in a Canadian patient in 2001 and has led the program with Dr. Ross since then. I was pleased to hear that there was a question about funding, because that's a lot of what involves me. So the Ontario government previously funded 16 LVADs, and we just heard last week that they've agreed to fund an additional 4, so we have 20 going forward for next year. It's important for everybody to understand that the way that this happens is there's a new device, whatever it is. The Ontario government doesn't just fund it. They like there to be some element of evaluation. It's your dollars that allow us to buy the devices that we put in to people, study the outcomes, and then go forward to the government to say, these are our results, and then the government says yes or no to funding. So we have this in place for LVADs and for many other programs within the Peter Munk Cardiac Center. So it's a testimony to the drive and the excellence of this program that we're able to translate dollars from philanthropy into direct patient care and to a funded program. So it's an amazing result. It's my pleasure to reintroduce Dr. Rao to the podium to carry on with tonight's celebration. Viv?
It's always good to have the director of PMCC behind us and supporting us, so thank you, Barry. Well, most of you just heard our talk, so there's not a lot I'm going to say other than to once again be amazed by what we've accomplished here. Just 10 years ago, we were watching patients die in our coronary care units without having the technology to keep them alive, and now we've just done our 100th LVAD. Heather mentioned that last week we did 567th transplant. Happened to be a patient who had an LVAD, and I think I'm still recovering from that operation, but it's just a testament as to what this technology can do and will do for our patients. For all the patients that are on VADs right now, we're looking for hearts for you, and we're going to get a heart for you, and you're going to be great when you get your hearts, and that's what this technology does. To all the donors in the room, once again, this program would not exist without you, and I just want to say thank you. So I hope you all have your glass of champagne, those of you who are allowed to have champagne, and toast to the program and this amazing milestone. What I want to do now is I'm going to call Heather to come up here, and she doesn't know I'm going to do this, but I'm going to have Jennifer Martin come up here. This is an example of what the field is like. 5 years ago, when I implanted an LVAD into Jennifer's brother Michael, we knew that the technology was going to last 4 years. Today, if Michael was around, I would have given him a different device that would probably have kept him alive indefinitely. So that's where your dollars have gone. It's allowed us to, expand and to go into new frontiers and to forever do the cutting edge. So we're going to unveil this. I'll let Jennifer and Heather unveil it. Go ahead. And this is a plaque that we're going to mount at the VAD clinic commemorating the 100th LVAD implant that took place on February 10th, 2011. And now you're going to have a unique treat, because you probably heard a lot of doctors speak at these events. What I'm going to do now is turn it over to some of our patients. So we have many patients in the audience that you've already met, but 2 in particular have been really, really stalwart supporters of our program. And from the day they had their transplant, and in fact, from the day they had their VAD, they said, whatever we can do to advertise your program, to increase donor awareness, just call on us, we'll do it, and they have really come through for us. So the first patient I'm going to bring up is David. David Prince is a prince of a guy. And he could be, and he'll tell you his story, so I'm not going to try and steal his thunder, but let me just say that his story could be duplicated by anybody in this room. You just don't know when disaster is going to strike. And he turned disaster into a tremendous success story. So David, you want to come up here and say a few words?
Caught me a little bit off guard. I must admit I wasn't expecting this many people, but it's also a celebration of mine. Four years ago, I had my transplant. I got this phone call about another hour, and it had a Robert Smith attached to it. And of course, everybody answers a phone with a Robert Smith, don't you? So I thought, what is going on? So Robert Smith from Trillium says, you have to be down at TGH in an hour and 20 minutes because we're going to operate on you tonight. So as I recovered from being able to drink with my pals on this wonderful deck and realized the reality that it was now going to be mine, that I was going to get transplanted. So, 4 years ago, what's happened since then? Well, I've seen these two a lot. I've got to know a heck of a lot of people. I think I've become a better person because you do get to meet a lot of people, and I don't know why I'm having trouble. It's hard to believe that I'm actually a professional speaker and I can't do this, but anyway, I'll get through it. The point is that people have heard me yell and scream a lot, and I will tell you that I was very active. And the bottom line, to make it very simple, I finally decided to have a vacation. I went to Brazil with my wife, and as Viv will tell you, I was chasing some damn golf course that I'd heard about that was spectacular in Brazil. And the second day of our trip in Brazil, I felt a little queasy, and I suggested to my wife that we go back to the hotel. And from there, I ended up in the great care of TGH after going through 2 months of intensive care in Brazil, for which they would never tell me about transplant or anything that was going to happen to me because the chances were not very good that I was going to be able to make the trip home. Upon arrival in Toronto here, we were fortunate enough that we got taken care of by a doctor at Toronto General Hospital who immediately gave the results to Dr. Heather Ross. I had a meeting the next day with Dr. Heather Ross. Dr. Heather Ross's comment to me was, I think you've got about a week to live. So as I paused, choked, and my wife sort of grabbed hold of me, we were told that obviously I needed help. The help came in the form of knowing Dr. Vivek Rao and something I had no idea about, this crazy thing, HeartMate 2, and this wonderful mechanical device that now all of you should know by now has saved a whole bunch of people. All I can say is that we ended up having a great experience. I'm still here. I'm still playing lots of golf, not as much as I'd like, but certainly more than I thought when I was in hospital in Brazil. And we have become great friends with everybody here, and I can't thank these people enough, and I hope that you feel the same way about it, but certainly they do incredible work. And yes, I will be at the Bruce Rogers again trying to beat Viv, and we'll have a great time. So thank you very much.
I'd like to raise a toast. If you didn't catch it, today is the actual 4th anniversary of David's transplant. So David, happy anniversary. All of our transplant patients actually celebrate 2 birthdays, their original birthday and their transplant day. So again, congratulations. It's a little unfortunate that he's transplanted now because when he had the VAD in when we were on the tee box, I'd turn the speed down so I could outdrive him. I can't do that anymore. The next amazing individual I want to introduce everybody to is Andrea Clegg. She's actually famous. If you haven't seen her already, she was all over the paper. She was in global TV, and she has an amazing story. People say that weddings change her life forever. Hers really did, and I'll let her tell you the more details about that. Andrea, come on up.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the Foundation for inviting me to this wonderful celebration. It's a true honor for me to be standing here with so many heroes in the room. Each of you has significantly contributed to saving many lives, including mine. I'm here to share my story with you and tell you a little bit about being on the LVAD. At 24 years old, I had graduated from the University of Waterloo with a degree in civil engineering. I had secured a real job. My longtime boyfriend and I at the time, Sean, sitting at the front, we had purchased our first home in Cambridge. We adopted 2 dogs, 2 cats. We started planning for our future. Everything was in place and life was normal. At 24 years old, in May of 2008, I was diagnosed with dilated cardiomyopathy. This disease had caused my heart to enlarge 3 to 4 times its natural size, decrease in function significantly, and initiate episodes of arrhythmia. This diagnosis came as a complete shock. I had never previously faced any kind of health challenge, and there is no history of heart disease in my family. Doctors told me it could have been a virus that attacked my heart. I will never know for sure. What I do know is that my life had changed forever. In the first summer with heart disease, I lost about 40 pounds. I spent my days moving from my bed to my couch, and I just waited to feel better. Sean would carry me to bed at night because I couldn't climb the stairs. I was instructed to have babysitters with me at all times. I rarely left the house, and I survived day to day. On May 24th, 3 weeks after I was diagnosed, Sean proposed to me. We didn't know how long we had, but we knew we wanted to spend that time together. Since my heart was very weak, functioning around 20%, and the doctors didn't see any kind of improvement over that summer, it was decided that they would install a defibrillator, also called an ICD, or an implantable cardioverter defibrillator. It would shock my heart automatically out of a dangerous rhythm if it were to occur. I was told it was implanted to prevent sudden death. This was a blunt comfort. I chose to name my ICD Ivan because he's my big, strong bodyguard. Ivan was always watching my heart, and he evaluated every beat. So I started planning my wedding as I learned how to alter my lifestyle with 20% heart function. I made wedding planning my job, and it took my mind away from my illness as best as anything could. I married Sean on May 30th of 2009. It was a beautiful day, and everything went perfectly. We couldn't have asked for a better day. After dinner at the reception, I stood up to give my speech. Ivan decided he was not happy with the pace of my heart, and he delivered 3 shocks. It felt like a bomb went off inside of my chest. The feeling can also be described as a horse's kick or a baseball bat to the chest, and I was forced to the ground in the middle of my speech with my new husband catching me before I hit the floor. Firefighters and paramedics put me on a girder, escorted me out of the hall, and we went straight to St. Mary's Hospital in Kitchener. It wasn't quite a limousine, but at least we had lots of flashing lights and sirens. We spent the rest of our evening and our wedding night at St. Mary's Hospital, and we also finished our wedding reception at the aptly named aftershock party. I say, how many brides get to wear their wedding gown twice? In the summer of 2009, following my wedding, I began experiencing new symptoms. I was told that the left side of my heart had caused the right side of my heart to fail. I was now in severe end-stage heart failure. Discussions now began regarding a heart transplant. And somewhere along the way, someone mentioned this machine that could do the work of my heart and give me time to wait for a heart transplant. I spent 2 weeks in the hospital in Kitchener and then was urgently transferred here with confidence. I heard the story about one of these crazy doctors that climbed a mountain with a heart transplant patient. I heard all about the team and their compassion for their work, and the first person to greet me in the cardiac ICU was actually a doctor. I knew that I was entering the right place. Within 4 days of arriving, I was officially approved for a heart transplant, and things started changing very quickly. I waited on the list for 3 days until the doctors decided I couldn't wait any longer. To quote some of them, I had hours or minutes left to live, and my heart had stopped moving. Sean and my family waited at my bedside and projected all the strength that they could to me. I wasn't eating, I wasn't drinking, I wasn't sitting up, and I wasn't even sleeping. I was sitting at death's door. But never did I feel that I was out of options. Dr. Rao came into my room with this metal contraption he called an LVAD. He looked at my abdomen and said, "Yeah, I think it'll fit." He spent some time with me answering questions and explained the procedure. We watched an informative DVD about people living happily with a HeartMate 2. I didn't feel like it was a difficult decision to make. I wanted to live, and this was my best option.